Welcome back to Blender Frenzy. I am Justin, and we are continuing our quarantine series. This is what we did last time. We just made a little animation where our camera is going around our object, makes it look like our object is spinning. But if I go out into viewport mode and enable our overlays, you can see, there we go. We got our camera parented to this middle object that's just spinning around, and it's just looping through that animation. And then we rendered all of our frames out into an image sequence that you can see here. We've got frame 1. You can see that we have our name, and then underscore 0001 to underscore 000, sorry, underscore 200, because we have 200 frames. So this time we are going to import this image sequence into the video sequence editor. So come back to your Blender, click this plus button if you haven't already, and then video editing and video editing, and you should see something that looks like this. So here's our sequencer, here is our preview window, and hover your mouse over the sequencer, press Shift A to add in a image/sequence. Navigate to your folder here, which I made a folder specifically for this image sequence, and I did that so that in case I needed to change something, I can put it in another folder that has some other, iteration or some improvement or something that I want to change. So I'm going to go in here, and here is our animation list. Currently, right now, it's sorted by date modified, so I don't want that. I want to make sure I'm sorted by name so that it starts at frame 1. If I had date modified, it'll start at 200, and it will play the animation backwards, and that's not what I want this time, so make sure that we are starting at 1. I'm going to press A to select all of them and add image strip, and there we go. Boom, we have our image strip. Looks like it imported it into channel 2 here. As you can see, channel 2 right here. I'm actually going to grab, so with this selected, undo that. With this selected, I'm going to grab this G and then Y up just to frame 6. This is just so I have a little bit of leeway. If I have it all the way down at frame 1, I can't bring that up anymore, and that just annoys me. So I like to have a little breathing room on the top and the bottom. And this is so we can add music or other effects. So now let's press home. Make sure our mouse is still hovering over the sequencer. Press home, and then scroll out just a little bit. So here's our frame range from, let's see, what is our frame range? Oh, hey, look at that, we can't see it. I'm glad I noticed that, because my big head is blocking this. So, okay, so now we can see our start and our end. So our start is at frame 1, and our ending is at frame 200, because it's using the same frame range that we already had set before. So I'm going to press Shift left arrow to go back to the frame 1, and then Shift S to snap my strip. Make sure your strip is selected, of course. And now we have 0 plus 0, 1. Now this is in reference to our frame rate is 24 frames per second. So 0 is 0 seconds plus 1 frame. So 0 seconds plus 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that's going to go all the way to, the last one would be frame 23, because the very next one will start at 2 seconds plus 001. And then it will keep going to 323, and then 4 seconds, and on and on. Now you can do a couple things if you want to change this. If you go to View, and then go down to Show Seconds and uncheck that, you can now see the frames instead of the seconds. Or you can just bring this up, because we already have our timeline down here. So if we hover over this line here, bring that up, you can see more of our timeline is being revealed down here. And then that will give you our frames. That way we can keep this one up here at show seconds. And you can also just press Control T. That toggles that. So I can see my seconds up here and my frames down here. I like that. Okay, so Shift left arrow, go back to the beginning, and press play, and this is what we have. Okay, so that's slowly caching in there, and let it play all the way through. And once it's cached in, now you can see it plays smoothly. You can see? Ta-da! Now, that's what this orange stuff is down here, is the cache. If you can't see that, go to View, Cache, and then make sure show cache and final images are checked. And then you want to come over here to proxy and cache, and then make sure cache final is checked over here. Now, if you want to prefetch the cache, meaning that it will cache it in before it plays, hover your mouse over to the preview and press N, and under view settings here, just click prefetch frames. Now this hasn't worked for me in the past and it's been a little glitchy and it's crashed my Blender, so I'm just going to leave that unchecked. We have a small enough scene right now, I don't need to worry about that. So close that again, and now let's center this just a little bit, and there we go. So we have something that looks like this. So I am going to pause this here, shift left arrow, and I'm going to add in some music. So I'm just going to choose some music I've already downloaded, and I'm going to shift A. You can also just come up here to add, doesn't matter, and sound, and then navigate to where you have your sound or your music. And I'm using YouTube audio from Max McFerrin. Compressor Works Twang is what it's called. So I'm going to double click that and bring that in here. Let's make sure we are on our strip tab up here, and with our audio selected, I'm going to check display waveform. If you want to have all of the audio in your scene display waveform all the time, go to view and then waveform displaying and waveforms on. And then it gets rid of that option over here and it will automatically always do that. So I'm going to grab that on the Y, move that right under our animation, and this is what we have. A little loud, I think, just a moment. All right, I'm going to zoom out, control middle mouse button and zoom out. You can go zoom out up or side to side. We've got a long, you can see that this is about over 5 minutes worth of song. We're not going to make it that long, of course. So I'm just going to zoom back in here, and we'll end it about, I don't know. We'll just come over here, bring our playhead over here, hover our mouse, press Control End, and that gives us our end frame here, which is 1681. And then I'm going to just select our strip, Shift D to duplicate that, and then snap it here. And because we did the animation in such a way where it has a continuous loop, we shouldn't even notice a glitch. So if we play that, you see that going there. It might be a little choppy because, well, we haven't cached it in. But yeah, see, it just keeps going. So in order to actually change the volume here in Blender, just come to the volume, and I'm just going to type in 0.4 here. And then you can see the waveforms actually go down as well, indicating that it's softer. There we go. Something like that. That's probably better. And I'm going to bring that sound down just a little bit more in my OBS Studio, just so that it doesn't really isn't really too loud there for you. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these by using the Shift and Shift D again to duplicate, and then we have 4 copies here. And so let's zoom in. Let's find where that music changes just a little bit. So right here, the music gets a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to find right where that is. And here I can't with just scrubbing. So if I come down here to playback, and then I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to go to Audio Visual Sync or AV Sync, and then check audio scrubbing. Now when I move the playhead, you can hear the music. Now this isn't really that effective for like music, but for talking in voice, if you want to have something happen on a specific word, this is very, very useful. So let's see. So right here is when it starts to go a little bit faster. So what I'm going to do is click this handle, and then I'm going to press Shift S to snap it to the playhead, and then I'm going to click and drag this to where you see the red border there, and then release, and it will snap that back there too. I could just click it and press Shift S as well, and that would snap it to the playhead as well. All right, and then I'm going to come out here, and I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Click and drag till it turns red, and release it to snap. And then I'm going to Shift select this one, press Control G to make those into a meta strip or to group them. I'm going to press Shift A to add in a effect strip and then speed control. And the speed control is actually going to use the stretch to input strip length. So if I want to make this animation a little bit faster, I just have to cut it in half. So it's going to then render animation in half of the time. So to do that, we can see how long this strip is by scrolling down to our time. And under duration, it says 400. So I'm just going to click in there. And it's not going to let me because the speed control strip itself is dependent upon our meta strip. So this is the actual strip that we can adjust the length. So go to duration, click in here. I'm just going to type in either 200 because I know that's half, or if I press my right arrow and then /2, this is divided by 2, and enter, it'll give me 200. And now you can see the animation is going to play a little bit faster. So if I press play, now it starts to go faster with the faster type music. And then I could just copy these, Shift D to get back to the regular speed wherever I wanted to. So maybe right there where it starts that. So right here. So then I would go grab those, move that to about here. And then I could do another one of these. I could just go ahead and Shift D to duplicate and duplicate that. And then if I'm dragging these as I'm moving them, I can press Control and it's going to snap. Now you can see it snaps the end to the ends of the other strips. Now the reason it's snapping the end is because I had my mouse cursor on the second half of the strip. So if I move my mouse cursor over to the front half of the strip and then press G to grab and then Control to snap, it's going to now snap the front ends of my strips to the other handles. So front of the strip here, and then if I right click to cancel that, now hover my mouse over here, grab, and then Control to snap. Now it's snapping the end of my strip to the handles. So just something to keep in mind there. So hover over here, G, Control, and then snap right there. And then select this handle. I'm just going to bring this handle in to right about there. And then select both of these and bring those down. All right, so now I have something that looks like this. So then that will play as fast as I have it set. Okay, it's getting a little choppy, so I'm going to press pause there, and then I'm going to clear this cache down here by Control R to refresh. And then I'm going to bring my cursor back over here, something like that, and then yep. All right, so then you got the timing. It's beautiful. So right when the music kind of changes there a little bit, it slows back down. And just because I can, I'm going to do a little bit of audio adjustments here so you can kind of see what that would look like. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. So just delete that. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this first one here too. And because that's just a little bit too long. So we just want this, and then the speed, and then we want this here. But I know that I want to make a cut in the audio right when the speed changes over here. So I'm just going to press page up and page down. We'll go to the handles. So you can see as I keep pressing page up, it will go up to the right, and page down will go down to the next handle. And that doesn't apply to handles that are hidden. So any strips that are hidden, it's not going to recognize those. So I'm going to put my cursor right on this handle because I know that's when the audio changes. I'm going to press K to make a cut. And then I'm going to grab this handle, G, and then Control to snap that right here. Okay, now we have a big gap here, nothing on any of our channels. So if I scroll way out, you can see nothing is filled in here. So, and the reason I'm scrolling out is because if there was something way up here or down here that is kind of filling that gap, this next move won't work. But since there's no strips in this entirety here, I can move my playhead over here. And now if I press backspace, anything on the right side of the playhead is going to eliminate all of those gaps. So backspace, and you can see now that gap is gone. Shift B will give you a zoom selection box. So if I click and drag a box, I'm going to release, and then it zooms into that. Okay, so it's not quite on the timing of the beat, so I've got to figure that out. But before I do that, I'm going to go to the front here and see where we are. Let's just go all the way to the beginning. 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So, yeah. So we can actually probably start this. Oop, let's page down here. So I'm going to press K to cut. Now, if I press K to cut while my mouse is hovering over on this side, then this side of the strip will be selected. But if I undo that and hover my mouse over here, press K, then this will be selected automatically. So it's just up to you on what workflow you want. So I'm going to undo that again, hover my mouse over here, K, and then this is already selected, X to delete, and click erase strips. Okay, so now we have 4. Okay, it's a little off. I'm going to probably see where our... Yes, okay. So right there, which means I have to have just a little bit more at the front here or at the back. So I'm going to, what am I going to do? Because that doesn't quite last as long as I need it to last. I'm going to make it at the front here. So I'm going to duplicate this, put it over here, and then grab this handle and then Control, snap it to that. So now the end should go right smoothly into the beginning. Well, that wasn't as smooth as I would wanted it to. Let's see if, why is that not working? Okay, so first of all, I'm going to make sure that we clear any offsets. So I'm going to just delete this one here and then Alt-O to clear any offsets. Okay, that's why. Is because I had shortened this because of something I did earlier, apparently. Oh, I think to make it align with the timing already. So I forgot I did that. So let's grab this and put that back to the beginning there. Actually, nope. We're going to grab it from, remember, hover our mouse over on this side of the strip, press G, and then Control to snap that end to those handles. So right there. And now I can grab this handle, G, Control, and snap that there. And this is what we have. Yes, perfect. Okay. So then that should, I think we already got this pretty seamlessly over here too, when that music changes. Okay, no, so that's why I did that, because I want the count. So let's count here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I need to clear my cache. 'Cause that's going. So I think it yeah, starts at 1 here. So we will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. So we just need to take this handle and shift, select this handle, and then let's just go ahead and zoom in here. Right when this is supposed to start. Oh, I accidentally. There we go. Right there. And now remember, we can just press backspace and clear that gap. Okay, so let's check that timing here. So that's 4. Let's just come up here. 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. 4, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I like that. And then we'll just get rid of this by X, page up, select our audio, cut, X, erase strips. Now, something cool we can do to fade in and fade out. Well, before we do that, actually, I'm not going to do it on these. I'm going to do it on a meta strip. So we're going to make sure we select everything by either clicking and dragging. You can select everything, or just press A to select everything. Control G to make a meta strip. Shift left arrow, and then Shift S to snap that. So once you get those shortcuts down, your video editing will just get super fast, and it does take, it's a little bit of a learning curve, so it takes a little bit of time to do that. But page up to go to the end here. And then what I want to do is take my cursor, which is at 24 seconds, and I don't know what the frame is, so let's hover our mouse over the timeline and press home. And just scroll with my scroll wheel out just a little bit. And that's not working. That's the way I want it to. So with your mouse still hovered over the timeline, just press 0. It's going to center the playhead and give us our frame number. So it's 576. And you can also see that over here. So click in here, and then I'm going to, let's do 20 seconds. So minus 20. That's going to take our playhead backwards 20 seconds, or 20 seconds, 20 frames. Let's do 24, so minus 4 again. So that'll be a whole second, because we have 24 frames per second as our frame rate. So it'll be a whole second where we're going to start this. And so I'm going to, with our meta strip selected, Shift A to add in, we're going to go to fade, and then we're going to say, and kind of see that there is, and let's do that over here. Shift A, fade, and then I'm going to say fade from playhead. So click that, and then from the playhead here, I'm going to Control R to refresh first, and now if I play, it fades that out. So 1 second to fade out. Now I can, if I think that's too fast or too slow, what I can do is right click, and then I can go to clear fade. Boom. And then that clears that fade. So I think I'm going to go 2 seconds in. So let's go to the end of that. Or maybe 3 seconds. Let's do 3 seconds. Why not? So that's going to be roughly 75. I know it's not 75. I think it will be, 72? But let's just do 75 minus 75. And then from here on, it's going to fade out slowly. So if I Shift A, fade from playhead, and Control R to refresh, and yeah, I like that. Okay, now we want to make sure our audio is the same. So let's go back to the place where we were at, minus 75, right here. So 501 is our frame there. And if I forgot to say this when I made the meta strip earlier, in order to go inside, just make sure it's selected and press tab. That will go inside the meta strip. Same thing, we have a meta strip here. If I select that only, press tab, go into the meta strip, you can see the contents here. To go back out, just press tab again. Now, if I press tab again to go out, it's just going to toggle me back into this one. So if I press tab to toggle back and forth, it's just going to go to that meta strip. So in order to go out one more meta strip, I make sure that this is not selected. So just click anywhere out and then tab, and then that goes back out of the whole thing, just so you're aware. Okay, so tab into this one. I want to, at this point, at 5:01, I'm going to start fading the audio. So I'm just going to select the audio as well, Shift A, add in a fade from playhead, and now you can see our audio is fading out. Just like that. And you can see the waveform is representing that. So let's go out by pressing tab and then come over to here and Control R to refresh our cache and press play. All right. Okay, so the only other thing I want to do is add in a color. So I'm going to fade it to black. So I'm just going to add in Shift A, add in a color. And by default, it's black. And you can see that it's down here. I'm going to grab it. Control to snap it to the handle here. And then I'm going to grab this handle, G, Control to snap it to this one. Because we're going to do the same thing at the beginning. And Shift left arrow, select our meta strip, and then I want to fade in a lot quicker, so I'm going to go to frame 10 with our meta strip selected, Shift A, fade to playhead. Okay, so now Control R to refresh, and then go back to the beginning, and we still don't see our black color. Well, that's because our meta strip is not set to overlay, or there's no alpha on it. So with our meta strip selected, come over to our strip tab, and under compositing, we're going to choose the blend mode and change it to alpha over. And now we can see our black underneath the meta strip. Now, you can see that the camera or the preview up here is looking down. So it's looking, if you're not familiar with the VSE, the camera it's like it's up here and it looks down on all these channels. So whatever is on the topmost channel is what it's going to see first. So if this isn't set to alpha over, if it's set to something like cross or replace, then it's only going to show this one and nothing below it, because it's not an overlay or anything. And so it'll just fade in just like normal, but you won't see anything beneath it. So that's why we're not seeing that color beneath it. So if I have alpha over, now it's acting as an overlay. Oh, except for I didn't have it selected for some reason. Okay. Oh, I know it. Control R to refresh. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And maybe that's because we are not on our frame range. So we're outside of our frame range. Shift left arrow to start at frame 1, and there we go. And Control R again to refresh, and it should work this time. Yeah, so it fades in really fast. Starts going here. And then once that music picks up, it goes a little bit faster. And then once it starts changing it goes back slower. You can even make it go faster if you'd like. There you go, and it fades out to black. And then it goes to this checkerboard pattern, which is our transparency. So I'm going to do just a couple more things here. Grab this, and we're going to type in 24. And then I'm going to page down to snap that on this handle. If I end it here, then I'm going to have one frame of transparency, and I don't want that. So I'm going to move the playhead one frame backwards, and then press Control End to make that our end frame here. And now you can see our end frame is 599, and that is what we want. Now, as far as the speed control goes, if I tab into here, you can actually make the speed control do the opposite effect. So we made it smaller, which made our animation go faster. But if you wanted to make the animation go slower, all you'd have to do is click and drag this handle and pull it out further. And then it would make the animation play slower through however many frames you made that length, if that makes any sense. But I think we have a solid animation here. Boom. Oh, that's right. I don't want to tab in. Select nothing or deselect everything and then tab back out here. Cool. And now to render this out into a video, we can just come over to our render. So I'm going to add, I think I'm going to add a video editing rendering, which I think we already have this. I think it's the exact same thing, but I'm going to add another one. So we're going to just rendering here, and you can see it's .001 because we already have a rendering. I'm just going to name this VSE render, and then make sure we have our render result here. And I'm going to just tweak this a little bit here. So bring this up. Okay, so I just moved my head out of the way here because I want to drag out a new window here and change this editor to our video sequence editor, and then change sequencer to preview, and then scroll. So I want to make sure we have our preview here and our timeline here. Home over the timeline, so we have our full frame range. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of play through here and make sure that our preview matches what we have up here when we render it. So F12 is render a single frame. I'm going to press F12. Make sure this matches this. That looks good. And by the way, I am in the EV renderer you can see up here. All right, so this is the frame we have now. Let's F12 to make sure that matches. Yep. And F12. So it looks like our animation is going to match just fine. So let's come over here to the output properties, and then let's change our output. So we don't want to use the image sequence folder because we are going to make a video this time, not an image sequence. Just do // renders, and then another // and then whatever the name of this is. So I usually do my file name, so I'm just going to do QS for quarantine series, TP for toilet paper, underscore 0121 underscore VSE underscore. And of course, I leave that last underscore so that the frame range can be displayed. Uncheck overwrite. File extensions is okay. Change this to FFmpeg video. Okay, so apparently that was a bad place to put my head. There, I'm going to go over those output settings again. So I think you were able to see up here everything that I did. But down here, what I did is I went to encoding, and then for the container, MPEG-4, and then for the video, I'm just going to leave the codec and all of this the same. I like those settings. And then audio down here, it says no audio, but there is audio, so I'm going to choose MP3. And then you can choose your bitrate there. Defaults are fine for me. And now, make sure we save this. And of course, I forgot to check my resolution, but that's what I want, 1920 by 1080, 100%, 24 frames per second. We're good. Now, if for some reason your preview and your render don't match, maybe you don't have anything here, it's completely black, or maybe it's some weird result, there's one more thing you can check. If you come over here and scroll all the way down to post-processing, and you can see you have these other options here. Now, if I uncheck both compositing and sequencer, by default, Blender is going to render whatever it is in my 3D camera, because primarily Blender is a 3D software program, of course. So if I press F12, now this is what we get. Now, the reason we get this is because I actually had changed the name of one of the textures that this was using just to make it more consistent. But you can see this is actually from the 3D camera, but we don't want it from the 3D camera. We actually want it, if we come over here to video sequence editor, we want it to pull it from our sequence editor, our meta strip with all the other strips we have in it. So in order to do that, just make sure sequencer is checked, and then we can press F12, and now it's pulling it from the sequencer instead. Now, compositing is the same thing. That's if we were using compositing. So this is our compositor here, but we don't have any nodes set up to composite, so we don't have to worry about that. But if you did, then this compositing is going to be overridden by sequencer. So whatever you have checked here, as long as sequencer is checked, sequencer will take the priority. So if you ever need to do compositing work, you need to uncheck the sequencer so that it can first render 3D and then it will add the compositing on that afterwards. But we're not using compositing. I'm going to uncheck that so Blender doesn't even try to check for the compositing, and then just the sequencer, and we should be good to go. All right, so now we are ready to render this out as an animation. You can come to render, render animation, or you can hit F12 and watch it go. And so it's going to render out the animation here. You can see our playhead rendering out the animation, and our render result is right here. And once it's all finished, it'll spit out a video, and then we'll go ahead and play it. All right, it is finished rendering, and here is our video. All right, so that took a rather mundane video or a mundane animation and changed it into a pretty cool, groovy video.